may I address PQ for oral answer number 19 and 20 in the order paper, and also oral PQs filed by Mr. Leong Man Wai, Associate Professor James Lim, and Ms. Hazel Phua for the sitting on 5th April, please.
Please proceed.
Mr. Liang Yinghua asked if we will review the safe management measures, or SMMs, given that we have passed the peak of the Omicron wave. As the member is aware, the relaxed rules came into effect on 29th March 2022, which is why we are all seated together today. And we have also transitioned to a vaccinated traveller framework on 1st of April 2022. This is a decisive but calibrated move. We did not declare a Freedom Day, nor did we declare the pandemic to be over, as some countries did. Taking a cautious step-by-step approach has served us well throughout the pandemic, and we will continue to do so. That said, we were able to make this decisive move as we observed that the number of daily cases have been steadily declining in recent weeks. More importantly, the number of severe cases needing to be hospitalized has also declined. And it is in this context that the MTF assessed that further easing of our SMMs and resumption of many normal activities to be appropriate. These relaxations will likely cause an uptick in daily cases, which we should be able to ride through without any major changes in our public health posture. Once cases subside further, we will consider further easing of the SMMs. And this can include reviewing distancing rules between tables in F&B settings that Mr. Liang specifically raised. And I want to assure Mr. Liang that I am aware, and in fact the whole MTF is aware, that 1 meter versus 800 cm makes a huge difference to the F&B establishment. It also makes a huge difference in terms of transmission. So we have to weigh the cost and benefit. We will also review TraceTogether, Safe Entry, as well as vaccination-differentiated SMMs, or VDS, which various members asked about. Let me go through the three measures in turn. On TraceTogether, and in response to Ms. Hazel Phua and Associate Professor James Lim, MOH no longer rely on TraceTogether for contact tracing for the general public. Cases who self-tested positive and go on the Protocol 2 do not upload their TraceTogether data, and we rely on them to do the responsible thing, to inform their contacts to self-monitor. So there's really no need to compare the data between self-reporting and TraceTogether, because having vaccinated the vast majority of our population and being determined to live with COVID-19, we have passed that stage of the pandemic where we contact trace every case. Having said that, agencies that look after more vulnerable sectors, such as schools or preschools, they continue to use TraceTogether for contact tracing. Further, the aggregated statistics generated by TraceTogether and Safe Entry can give us a good idea of the settings that are more susceptible to transmission of the COVID-19 virus. So on the whole, the costs and benefits of TraceTogether changes as we make further progress in living with COVID-19. The MTF will therefore review its relevance and application to stand it down when it is no longer needed, while maintaining the capability to restart it should we encounter a more dangerous variant of concern. Now for Safe Entry and VDS, I will address them together because they are closely related. Because today, Safe Entry is the most convenient way to check the vaccination status of an individual entering a premise. If we decide to do away with VDS, then there is no need for Safe Entry. As of now, VDS is still needed. Even as we know that the Omicron variant is less severe than Delta, unvaccinated or non-fully vaccinated persons are still a lot more likely to fall very ill if they are infected. As of now, we have about 3.5% of our adult population that are not fully vaccinated, and they account for over 1/5 of cases that require ICU care or die. While the patient load at our public hospitals have eased, hospitals are still very busy. With the recent easing of SMMs and the resumption of visitors to hospitals starting today, workload will go up for our healthcare workers. So the more cautious and correct course of action now is to keep VDS and not to risk having more non-fully vaccinated patients getting infected and needing hospital care and adding workload to our healthcare workers. So make no mistake, individuals who chose not to be vaccinated, they impose a cost, sometimes a significant one, to our hospitals in terms of workload, businesses in operating safe entry checks, and enforcement agencies in conducting checks. When we are sure that the situation in hospitals is stable and improving, we will review the VDS and consider if we can reduce the number of settings or remove it completely. Then it will be a matter of individual responsibility of these non-fully vaccinated individuals to take precautions to avoid high transmission settings, or better still, change your mind and get vaccinated. Finally, Associate Professor James Lim asked if COVID-19 can be treated like influenza at some point as an endemic disease. This is the objective set out by the MTF last year, and we are making good progress as a country. I should clarify, however, what endemicity means. It does not mean that we treat COVID-19 as if it is not there. It is in fact the opposite, because endemicity means the disease is constantly there, circulating at a rate that is more predictable and not likely to disrupt normal lives. Like influenza, which kills tens of thousands of people every year, we will need to continue to take precaution and adopt appropriate SMMs in order to manage the risk and the damage from COVID-19. We are still some way to treating COVID-19 as an endemic disease because the virus is still circulating around the world and evolving. The virus continues to spread widely in other countries, especially amongst those whose people are not well vaccinated, leading to significant evolutionary pressure. There is therefore a risk of it mutating into something more dangerous, into a variant of concern. So while we have eased up the SMMs, reopened our borders, the pandemic crisis is not over. We will have to continue to monitor the local and global situation, do our part to keep our country safe, and continue to work together to tackle whatever challenges that may come our way. Thank you.
Mr. Liang Eng-hwa.
Thank you, sir. So in Minister's reply, he mentioned